All right. Well, thanks everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our Ziegenfuss U. Linda's not here today because she's watching the grandkid, you know, who's 3 down in Somers. Yeah, Caroline, the kid number 7, grandkid number 7. I just issued numbers now. No, so
7.
Yeah, 7 rating. That's right, a mystical number.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now, so last week we did like an introductory lecture on just like hermeneutics, the art and science of biblical interpretation, and I'll give you the handout for that. It's just helpful to have that. Now, this one today we're going to start at page 1, Genesis 1:1, right? And this is an extremely important place to start. Today is Ayn Rand's birthday. And Ayn Rand, you know, she taught the philosophy that she was an Aristotelian, so the idea that the premise has to be accurate. If the premise is erroneous, then your conclusion is going to be screwed up. So in other words, beginnings are really important, right? This is Aristotelian logic. So you start at the beginning, and you really get this Genesis. It's chapter 1, verse 1, through chapter 2, verse 3. It's the whole section, okay? And it's 7 days of creation. And Mary, I want to talk about this. The documentary hypothesis, right? This is P material, okay? And we'll talk about that down the pipe. But for now, I'm using the new criticism methods from the 1950s. And what is that? I was indoctrinated in this. It's the text only. You only read the text and you don't worry about where it came from. So in other words, you have to deal with the text that's in front of you. So that's kind of an interesting, that's new criticism.
But some of it's pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, I know.
In Genesis.
Yeah, well, you're asking German questions here.
Okay.
So what do you do? So we're just going to do like, we're just going to look at the text and what it says and what it means, especially to the original readers of this. Okay. Now, hey, go ahead. Do you have a question?
No, I have very bad eyesight, and I don't want to be the comedian again.
No, that's all right.
But it says here, number 6, and God said, "Let there be a firearm." I read. And it says firmament.
A firmament, yeah. No, not firearm.
I see so bad. I said this cannot be right.
Second Amendment's very interesting, but that's not,
It cannot be right. My eyesight is so bad.
All right, so before we begin with the text, let's do a couple of basic things here. First of all, count to 5, okay? What are the 5 great world religions? You know this, I say this to you all the time, and you need to know this because you live in New York, right? Judaism, do them in order. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, take a breath, Hinduism, Buddhism, okay? Now, the 3 monotheistic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And we are called theists. Okay, the word theos, T-H-E-O-S, means God or gods. Theos, theology, theos, T-H-E-O-S. Okay. The word a in Greek means negation or no. So if you put a plus theos, what do you get?
No.
A theos. A consistent atheist believes there are no God or gods. So an atheist doesn't just say, we don't believe in Christianity. They don't believe in any of the 5 world religions. Okay? All right, now, theists, that's us, we believe in this. Okay, the hand sign. What is that? The creator-creation dichotomy. Say it. Creator-creation dichotomy. Di means 2, tome means cut in 2. Okay? So we believe in the creator-creation dichotomy. Who believes in that? Jews, Christians, Islamic people. Okay? That's what theism means. Okay? This is comparative religion stuff. Okay? Now, what do Hindus and Buddhists believe? They believe in this. Ready? Watch the hands. Ready? And when 2 Hindus meet in the street, they go like this, right? Because they are polytheist and pantheist. Pan means all or across. Pan, theos. Poly means many. So the symbol for theism is what? Creator-creation dichotomy. Polytheism is this. Okay? And pantheism is all is God and God is all. Okay, what does that mean? That means I'm a God, you're a God, this table's a God, the trees are a God, the Hudson River's a God. Okay, that's pantheism. Polytheism is this. Many gods. How many gods in polytheism? Or in Hinduism? 330 million gods.
Now,
Okay.
what is animism? Is that?
Animism would mean that you worship like trees and rocks, and so that's kind of a cousin of polytheism. Okay. Now, who is polytheistic in the ancient world?
Roman.
They're Romans,
Almost the Greeks.
Greeks.
Everybody
It wasn't
else.
ancient, but
The Egyptians.
the American Indians, didn't they have
For,
also
for,
various-
don't do the New World stuff. That just adds to it. They're animists, sort of, right? So let's stick to the Mediterranean, right? All right. Persians, Babylonians, Egyptians, Greeks, people from India, right? Basically, everybody is a polytheist. Okay? Everybody's a polytheist. So when this story is written, what are they doing? It's a frontal assault on pantheism and polytheism. We are insisting that this is the reality. Creator-creation dichotomy. Extremely important. Extremely important. What is the first commandment again? I say this all the time. No other gods, okay? We, right, Jews, Christians, Islamic people, we believe that you worship the Creator alone and not the creation. The creation is you, angels, everything is on this side except for God, okay? So you read this story, it's almost like an attack on the prevailing worldview. This would have been a strange opinion, right? And who had the first strange opinion? Jews had the first strange opinion, Hebrews, right? And their neighbors, the Greeks, right? The Romans, the Egyptians, right? They would have thought that Hebrews are, they're atheists because they don't believe in the gods, right? They would think that the creator-creation dichotomy, this is like the most evil thing it could possibly be, right? And later on we'll talk about the Passover story, the 10 plagues, right? In Egypt, 10 plagues. Each plague is an insult, an attack on one of the Egyptian gods. Yeah. So the whole Bible is basically an attack on polytheism and pantheism, right? So if you have that in mind, okay, let's press on here, okay? One other thing about let's do Hinduism a little bit. C.S. Lewis says there's only two religions in the world. There's Hinduism and Christianity. So Hinduism is polytheism, okay? So if you say to a Hindu, hey, how old is the universe? That's a stupid question. Because the cosmos always existed and always will be, right? Because they believe in cycles, birth, death, over and over and over. You don't make any progress. You just have cycles over and over and over and over and over. Reincarnation over and over and over and over. Okay? So, again, who believed that? Everybody in the ancient world is a polytheist, and they believe that the world had always existed, right? And if you read the Babylonian creation myths, this is like Tiamat, and they have a whole elaborate mythology. That's their religion. The gods create the cosmos. Usually it's a conflict or a war involved, and they use existing material to create the world that we see now. Okay, so with that in mind, brownies.
That changes the whole picture.
Right.
Coffee is ready too.
I teach at the CIA. One of my rules is I don't eat while I'm working because they're always bringing me food. They think I'll like them or something. If All right. So what I did, I printed up the text for today. It'll save time. And I took this out of the King James Bible. So and what's the King James? It's called the Authorized Version from 1611. Okay. And the one that we have, if you have a King James Bible in a hotel room or something, Gideon Bible, it's a 1767 King James Bible. So they revised it several times to clean up the English, right? Okay, so let's go. In the beginning, God. Stop. All right, remember, the initial premise is the key thing. Now, the word beginning means what? The word beginning doesn't mean that, St. Augustine, okay, this is probably an apocryphal story, but it's a good one. One of St. Augustine's disciples said, what was God doing before he created the heaven and the earth? And the snarky answer is, he created hell for students like you. It's a great story, right? It doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, it's pretty good, right? So the question is, okay, one of the things that we're going to see in this is that God created the time and space continuum. Okay? I should have my, I can't talk without drawing. This is not a good thing. What am I going to do? Yeah, here, let me use your pen for a second. All right, ready? Look at this. This comes from St. Augustine, and I should put it up on the chalkboard. We'll draw it really big. What's that? That's you. Right? Right? Okay, and what's this?
Time and space.
This is a roadkill. This is what Robert did on the way up here. He ran something. No. So this is the universe. Okay? So, before God, there was nothing. Okay? In Latin, it's called ex nihilo. That means God created the universe out of nothing. Nothing. There's no material that was left over from a previous creation like the Hindus would claim. Okay? So, God creates the universe. And what is the universe? The universe is the time and space continuum, like this. So modern science says the universe is, what, 14.5 billion years old, okay? So if you got an airplane or a jet or something, it would take 14.5 billion years to get at the speed of light to go from one end to the other, okay? And so, where's God? Remember, creator-creation dichotomy? Yeah, God is up here, okay? God is outside of the time and space continuum. This comes from St. Augustine. This is one of the most profound things I've ever read in my history of studying theology, okay? So, if you say to God, hey God, what time is it? Let me see, it's 12 after 1. No, it isn't, because God exists outside of the time and space continuum. So when we say things like, Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. What does that mean? That God exists in eternity, and He created the universe down here. So in other words, God exists here. For how long? We don't know. The Bible doesn't say. God is. That's it. There's no beginning, middle, end. God is. He's eternal. Time and space is where? Time and space is a created thing. So if you want to do this diagram and do it correctly, you go like this. God is here, and this is the universe down here. Okay? So how does this apply to Jesus? Well, Jesus is the Holy Trinity. We'll talk about the Trinity sometime later on. It's one person, one being in three persons. Okay? So the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. What does that mean? Jesus leaves the Trinity and comes down to the earth and lives among us, and we beheld His glory. And then the death, burial, resurrection, the ascension, He ascends into heaven and goes back up here again. Okay? So God broke into the time and space continuum 7 BC to 33 AD. Okay? So time and space itself is a created thing. And I love to think about this for a minute. From God's point of view, God knows your great-great-great-great-grandson. And God also knows your great-great-great-great-grandfather.
That's so cool.
It's in the same moment, except there's no such thing as a moment. A moment is our point of view. So, Bobby's wrong. She's been arguing with me for years about this. So, with predestination and free will, okay, free will is something we see down here because we're looking at it, we're looking up. From God's point of view, well, of course He knows. He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end because He knows your great-great-grandfather, great-grandmother. It's just the same moment. There's no time for God, right? And it's kind of like, well, that's a big picture there, isn't it? Right? And this is very useful when you read this story. Okay? So that's this. Okay?
I have just one quick
Go ahead.
question because I think about this all the time. But, I believe that God existed, eternally.
Yeah.
But the Bible
Not even
doesn't say-
existed, is.
Is, but the Bible doesn't say where God came from. And
Nope.
But are there any theologians who have
Theory.
Okay,
put
all right,
forth
this is,
some
all
sort
right.
of idea of, I
Right.
just,
Here's what's odd about the Bible. The Bible doesn't waste time talking about who created God or where God came from. It just, God is, that's it. So you're free to speculate and have interesting theories,
well,
but you
I'm-
can't go out and start a
I'm
new
not
religion on it or
qualified to
something.
I'm not qualified to
No, you
speculate.
are. Yeah, you
No,
are.
I don't feel I am, because
Well, you're a baptized Christian and we're all equal before God, so you're entitled to have
But
interesting
I just know
speculations.
that, within my own little
Mhm.
life, you can't come up with something out of nothing, and,
That's because we're so limited.
Right.
well,
I think what you're saying is the same what I always say in my mind at least. We, the human being, is the most intelligent being on the world. However, we don't have an answer to everything.
Yeah.
Like, where is God coming from? We believe there's a beginning and there's an end. Where is God coming from?
That's down here stuff
What
again.
Right. What is He? And like the chicken or the egg, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So there is a block that we could understand that, and none of us, not only us here, but in the world, has gotten to the point where they can say the egg was first, the chicken was first, or God came from there, because we're thinking, in order to make these glasses, they came from, etc., etc. The way they are made, who had the idea. They didn't just pop up somewhere, and that's why I believe there are so many unanswered issues that we all struggle. I'm not to offend you.
No.
Even the professionals, even since I don't know who it would be in the Lutheran Church, but the Pope and whoever else is out there that has the power, has the understanding. Because it's something we humans don't understand, although we are the most intelligent species of living beings.
All right, let me pile on both of these here. All right. Albert Einstein, they said, only used 4% of his brain. You've heard that before?
yeah,
What percent do you use?
4%.
You know what I mean?
24%.
Yeah. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then here's a good way to think about God. Again, this comes from the scholastic theologians of the Middle Ages. They had a lot of time to think about these things, right? It's called the via negativa, right? The negative way, okay? So how do you do this? Take out a mirror and look at it, okay? God is the opposite of what you see in the mirror. So who are you? A finite person. What's the opposite of finite?
Infinite.
All right, you have all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. What is God?
Perfection.
Holy. Okay, so we're profane, he's holy. And you can go right down the list. When were you born? Well, God was not born. So the via negativa is kind of an interesting way because, again, God is a unique, outside of the time and space continuum. But that's kind of, you have to be honest to look at the mirror and go, yeah, am I omniscient? Can I be omnipresent? No, I can only be one place at one time. Well, God is the opposite. That's kind of a neat way to think about it, called the via negativa, right? The negative way.
There's just some
How do you
things that we're not
spell
gonna
that
know.
Via, V-I-A,
The way it sounds.
and negative, N-E-G-A-T-I-V-A, just put an A on the end.
There's just things that we're not gonna know until we get to heaven, and he's basically told us that
Yeah.
you're not gonna know everything because you are finite.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll find out someday, but
I mean, even if you went to you went to Bard College or Marist College and read every book in the library and were able to put it all together in your head somehow, you still wouldn't, that would be like a speck compared to what God knows.
Yeah.
So it's humbling when you think about it. Why? Because we're created beings and God is the creator. See, the creator-creation dichotomy, really important. So when you say in the beginning, that's coming from our point of view, right? We're writing about down in the beginning of what? The time and space, the creation. God always was. So there's no beginning for God. There's no he's eternal. There's no beginning, middle, and end. God is, right? Like present tense or whatever tense. There is no time for God. Okay, and He created ex nihilo. That means out of nothing. Creator creation dichotomy. Okay, these are my little notes on here. Now, see the word God. How do you spell that?
Capital G.
G-O-D, capital G-O-D, right? Okay. Now, I put this in boldface because when you go through the text, right? God. First of all, God is. Okay. God created. God said. God saw. God divided. God called. He called. God said. God made. God called. God said. God called. God saw. God said. God saw. God said. God made. In other words, the creation story, God is doing something all the way through this. I didn't count how many times that's mentioned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. At least 16 times in these verses, God said, God saw, God divided, God does. So who created the heaven and the earth? God did it all. Right? So God is the active agent in this thing. Right? God is doing this. He's doing the verb stuff here. Right? So the word God, again, here's a little handout here that is pretty neat. It's called Names of God. Okay? So there are multiple names of God in the Old and the New Testament. Just like there are multiple, like hundreds of names for Jesus in the New Testament. Right? So why is that? The Bible has a lot of poetry. Right? And they do Hebrew parallelisms. So sometimes they'll say one name for God and then parallel another name for God. It's the same God, right? Just because God has multiple names, again, I use the analogy all the time. If you have a diamond, with facets on the diamond, the facets make the combined total of all the facets make the diamond glimmer and shine. Right? It's one diamond, but multiple facets. So each name of God is like a facet of God. That's kind of neat. So the basic name of God, the fourth word in the Bible here, in the beginning, God, is the word Elohim. Okay? So how do you spell that? E-L-O-H-I-M. Elohim. And that word God is used 2,602 times in the Old Testament. Right? And with computers, you can count these words like this, which is kind of neat, right? Now, what's the big whoop-de-doo about this? Okay. What does the back of a dollar bill say? In God we trust, right? Okay. When you say in God we trust, does that mean you have to be a Lutheran or a Trinitarian Christian to carry a dollar bill around with you? No. It means God in a general sense, generic sense. Well, that's a pretty good word because in the Canaanites, right? Their generic word for God is El, E-L. E-L, right? And do we know this name before? You know what I'm going to say, right? Angel created beings over here. Angels always have the name of El embedded in their name. Michael, Gabriel, Ariel. The name El is always embedded. So if an angel shows up, like, hi, I'm an angel. My name is Robert. He's probably lying. Right? So you have to have El embedded in your name, right? So it's like an angel thing. It's kind of neat, right? So the name El is the generic, like, in God we trust God for everybody in the ancient Near East. El is like the God name, okay? So what is Elohim then? E-L? It's in there, right? Elohim is the plural of El.
Here's the Trinity.
Yeah. So you could read it, in the beginning God's created the heaven and the earth, except it's plural, but it's also singular. It means one being. So Trinitarian Christians like us, right, one being in three persons, we get all excited about that word Elohim. And some people would say, oh no, it's like Queen Elizabeth, you have to refer to her as, Her Majesty or whatever, like the plural or something, right? No, that's not what it means. They could have used the word El, But no, it's this plural, this fat word for God, right? A deeper word than just El, right? I think that's pretty neat.
That's cool.
All right. So in the beginning, God, what did he do? God created, okay, see? Creator, creation. What did he create? The heavens and the earth. Okay? So there was a time when there was no heavens and the earth, but there was a God. Elohim existed, Holy Trinity. God created this, the heavens and the earth. So that's just a fancy way of saying the ordered universe. Okay? You know that Latin phrase, ordo ab chao? It means order out of chaos. Yeah. So in the ancient Near East, the Babylonian creation myths, they believed that the universe was like chaos. They don't like chaos, like a big soup, kind of like things whirling around and swirling around. And God creates order out of chaos, right? You know, I was down visiting the grandkid yesterday. She's 3, you know. And what do 3-year-olds do? They bring chaos to order. There's never been like a 3-year-old who goes into a room and puts things back on the shelf and cleans. It always goes from the higher to the lower, doesn't it? Isn't that interesting? But God is a God of order. God is a God of good order, right? When you see somebody whose life is chaotic and screwed up and messed up, what does that mean? Well, it means that like that's the domain of Satan, right? So Satan wants chaos, destruction, death. God is the God of good order, rules, rationality, principle. Right? It's amazing to me. Okay, so ordo ad chaos. It means chaos. It means order out of chaos. So one of the things God did, He pulled it all together, He spoke it in, and He created the time and space continuum. Okay, so that's your St. Augustine chart here. Okay, so He created this. Okay, we'll also talk about this. Oh yeah, but Charles Darwin. You know, evolution, how do we deal with this? Here's how we do with it. You draw a line like this. Okay? What's upstairs? Metaphysics. Meta, M-E-T, means beyond physics. What's physics? It means touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it, hear it. Physics is down here, okay? Certain schools of philosophy, like logical positivists, would say all metaphysics is gobbledygook, block it, throw it out, annihilate it from the human race, and we'll just do science and physics, right? What can science do for you? A lot. It can build an atomic bomb, right? I mean, that's pretty amazing when you think about it. Well, what does metaphysics do? Should we drop it on Japan or not to end the war? So Harry S. Truman had to decide whether to use the science. So it becomes a spiritual and a religious thing. Would you want to live in a world that's only science? I wouldn't. You know, science has to be tempered somehow by people. So another way of looking at it, physics downstairs is knowledge. Do we have a lot of knowledge? Yeah, my students, they verify things. They do like a Google search because they don't believe me when I tell them things. So we have a lot of tidbits of knowledge. What's upstairs? Wisdom. Wisdom is the domain of metaphysics, right? And where do you get that? From reading philosophy, from science, from doing theology, philosophy, from knowing history. You read great books of literature, right? You talk to your grandfather about, and you try to get wisdom, because a lot of times people that have lived a long life, they've gone through the Great Depression and things like this, and there's wisdom to be had there, okay? And again, our problem is if you throw out metaphysics and only live in a domain of science, science can do a lot of things for you, but it doesn't help you with the moral and ethical questions, right? So what is this? This book is not a science book, okay? So if I talk to my dopey kids, what do I tell them? I want you to get an A in biology. And when they talk about evolution, and when they talk, like Addie is talking about fossils right now. Well, I wanted to know about fossils, right? We talked about this on the way down. She went with me yesterday in the truck, sedimentary rock layers, so, sedimentary, metamorphic rocks, igneous rocks. We talk about this stuff. It's good to know. So we need to know about science, But at a certain point, you have to go upstairs and temper it with wisdom and metaphysics, right? So metaphysics is upstairs. This is a book about metaphysics, upstairs stuff, okay? And can I sleep at night? Yeah, I like to watch the History Channel. My favorite course in college was anthropology, where I talked about, Australopithecus and Neanderthal man, and, it's fascinating to me, right? But I believe that God created the heaven and the earth, and I sleep very nicely at night, because this is a metaphysical book, right? And it's not either or. You don't have to say it's either creation or evolution. This is where a lot of American Protestants go wrong, that it can only be one or the other. No, it can be both and, Like, how do you dice an onion?
There are two ways.
Well, you have a cutting board, then you have the right tool for the job, right? Well, the same thing. So if you want to know how the earth was created, well, read about evolution. That's an interesting theory. It's fascinating. But if you want to know who and why the cosmos was created, that's what religion is for. See? And I think that the creation story in Genesis satisfies on multiple levels, right? And we're not anti-science, we're pro-science, right? A lot of German Lutherans have been on the cutting edge of science. Johannes Kepler and people like that. We have there's no contradiction here, And especially if science is used for what? Health and healing, Dave Barkstead got a knee replacement. Is that a great thing? It's unbelievable, He'd be in a wheelchair, now he's like, So we love science, we embrace science, we embrace medicine. It's fantastic. How about this one? Somebody's on life support. What do?
Hope that they had.
I mean, technically, you could keep them alive forever, couldn't you? The science, well, let's keep them, because the doctors don't want to admit that they failed or something, so keep them alive. There might be a lawsuit involved or something. So what's metaphysics for? Yeah, here's what you do. You pray about it, but even more, you talk to your friends in the church, and maybe you talk to the minister or the rabbi, you pray, you think about it before you make a decision, right? And then when you do make the decision, what do you do about it? You say, we tried everything we could do. We went as far as we could go with the science of it, and it's time to give up on the person, because we love that person, and it'll give you the confidence that you did the right thing. But, you don't have to share the burden alone. Right? That's why you want to talk about it and pray about it and think about it. And, get wisdom. More people are wiser than fewer people. So that's why you want to, if you have a tough decision in your life, well, share it with people that you trust. And get a group of people that, are sane and rational, and talk it over, and, what are the alternatives, and, right? And I had about 25 years ago, I was involved in a case where a kid, he was like 21, 22, he got in a fight with his girlfriend, opened the car door and said, I can't take it anymore. He jumped out. And I think he thought he was going to, do like a Hollywood stunt where he rolled. Well, it snapped his brainstem back here. And he was like an athletic kid. So here he is in bed, and I touch his hand. His hand feels like this. It's warm, moving around. Yeah, but he's dead. And so because of that, they donated his body, right? So 75 people benefited from the organ donations. 75 people. And it's a horrible thing, but the wise thing is to, take something that's a horrible tragedy, and then we talked about it, and talked about it a long time and deliberated on what to do, But that's what it's for. See, so there's no creation versus evolution. That's a separate fight that we don't, as Lutherans, we do both and, not either or. It's actually a pretty interesting thing.
So is it intelligent design?
No, you don't even have to go to that. That's another interesting theory. I read about that stuff. It's interesting. You don't have to be tormented by that. You can say, well, evolution, fascinating thing. I look at fossils and everything, intelligent design, interesting theory, like the Big Bang theory, like who lit the fuse that caused the Big Bang? Well, we would say God did.
Right.
And I'm jumping ahead now.
No, that's all right.
But we're talking about...
We're almost up to day one, so.
I'm saying, that's the time-space continuum.
Yeah.
Day one is
Yeah.
not 24 hours.
Well, we weren't done yet.
Okay, but I'm saying, in God's time,
Yeah.
it could be 3 million years.
Yeah, there's a verse that says a day in God's time is like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But even if you said, okay, let's say 7 days, that's 7,000 years. That's not enough time.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a marvelous trip last year, and we went to this place called Dinosaur Land in Vernal, Utah.
Oh, I love that.
And it's 1,500 dinosaur bones exposed that you walk through and you touch and you see.
It's
And,
fascinating.
You know, and that's dated back to how many million years ago?
Well, the theory is what, 66 million years ago, a giant meteorite hit in the Yucatan Peninsula, and they think that's what caused the extinction.
Yes.
Dinosaurs were around for like 230 million years.
And as you start to look at the creation theory,
Yeah.
you know, I've always thought, you know, well, it's God's time.
Mhm.
It's not human time. It
Yep.
says it's a day.
Yeah.
It's God's measurement. And that's why.
Well, hold on to that, because we're going to talk about that in a couple of
Because I try
seconds.
to embrace the science and all of it.
No,
Fold it all in one.
No, you go upstairs to get the right tool, and when you're done, you come downstairs. And it's okay to do that,
All right.
right? You know, like, let's dice an onion, let's pray about it. No, you go to the drawer and get a knife, and you use the right tool for the right job. That works? I think it's liberating,
Okay.
right? All right, so Elohim, right? It's the generic name of God, and later on in Exodus chapter 3, we're going to see Yahweh. I am who I am. So that's the ineffable name of God is revealed to Moses, right? But this is a generic, so general name. In other words, this is for all people, right? Everybody, including us. You don't have to be Jewish to like the story, okay? Very important. So Elohim created the heaven and the earth, right? That's verse 1. Oh, out of time. No. And the earth was without form and void, chaos, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Right? Now, what does that mean? Again, this is the echoes of these Babylonian creation myths where God created the heaven and the earth, but it still needs to be ordered. It's all kind of a big soup, kind of like, sloshing around. Okay? And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So, see that word? Ruach. It means like the breath of God. So when God creates Adam, what does the word Adam mean? A-D-A-M? It means dirt man, man of dirt. Adam, dirt, right? So God made Adam out of the dust of the earth, right? And he blew the ruach into him, the spirit into him. So it means like the breath of God, okay? And they believe in the ancient world that when you die, the spirit goes out of you, the breath goes out of you. A dead person doesn't breathe, so that means that the breath is not going in and out, right? So the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters. I love that image. Again, it's like poetry.
Just love
Isn't that neat though? Like
Yeah.
coming over, looking at it, right?
But how did it move over the face of the waters if we didn't create it?
Again, Jews live in the mountains in the Bible, okay? And there were only 2 stories of Jews taking to the sea. One of them is Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the other one is Jonah. Why did Jonah go to the sea? To get away from God. You want to go as far as so for a Jew, the waters are a worst case scenario. No, I'm not kidding you.
Right.
And you ever see that George Clooney movie, The Perfect Storm, right? Where they're in a boat and a 60-foot wave comes and like flips the boat over, and I'm thinking, you know what it would have been like in the ancient world? No lights. At least George Clooney had lights on the boat. Imagine being out in absolute pitch darkness and having the ship be flipped over by a 60-foot wave. Well, that's what the Jews think of the sea.
Scary, yeah.
And they don't understand. They don't watch like Jacques Cousteau and all the whales and save the whales. The seals are so cute and look at them flopping on the Galapagos Island. They don't know that, right? They think of the sea as like a worst case scenario, right? Right. The first great Jewish swimmer is Mark Spitz. He won 7 gold medals. It's a fantastic thing. But it took him that long to get used to the ocean, right? All right, so spirit of the water. All right. All right, ready? Now here we have, and God said. God saw, God divided, and God called. What is this? One of the things about Jesus, and I talk about this in my sermons all the time, he perfectly balances words and deeds. Okay? Words and deeds match. Okay? So it's one thing to talk about doing something nice, it's another thing to do it. So Jesus balances words and deeds. Okay? Well, guess what? Jesus is the second member of the Holy Trinity. Guess what God does? Words and deeds balance and match. Okay? So he says it, and then he does it. He does it and he says it. He says it and he does it. Words and deeds are perfect. So one of the attributes, the reason you know Jesus is God is because he acts like God in the book of Genesis. Words and deeds perfectly balanced. Okay? So God said, okay? Now, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. What's the first line of the Gospel of John? In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Okay? The word in Greek is logos. L-O-G-O-S. You can learn that word. It's like a company logo. You know, the Nike swoosh sign. That's a logo. The McDonald's Golden Arches. Okay? So in Greek philosophy, logos means the reason, the glue that holds together the creation and the cosmos. Why isn't that the world doesn't just go beep, everything fly off into space? Because the logos is holding it together. Why did you wake up today? Well, because the logos is popping off the electrons in your brain to have your heart beating and your kidneys and everything functioning even when you're not thinking about it. So the Greeks would call that logos, or the reason that animates the creation, the cosmos. Okay? So you could say, and God, logia, God said it. Logia means sayings, right? And God said it. He said, let there be light, and there was light. Okay? And God saw the light, and it was good. Okay, stop. Fortunately, I have 3 daughters, and they're all married now with grandchildren, so that's a good thing. But when they were teenagers, they're like 16 or 18 or something, I'm going to bed. It's like 8:45 or something, I'm going to bed, right? Maybe 11 o'clock, I stay up late. Well, that's when they go outside, right? They leave at 11, right? They keep vampire hours, like they're not allowed to be out when the sun's shining or something, right? Well, this is abnormal behavior, right? For most of human history, we don't have electricity, we don't have lights, right? So who goes out at night? Criminals, prostitutes, thieves, dangerous people are out at night, okay? Why? Because they operate in darkness, right? So what's one of the, if you want to eliminate or lower the crime rate in a troubled neighborhood, you put lights out, and they have lights that simulate daylight. They're really bright, right? And it helps to reduce the crime rate, right? In the ancient world, imagine, you go to bed when the sun goes down, you wake up when the sun comes up. What happens when there's a total eclipse of the sun?
You never wake up.
It's the end of the world. What is this? The sun is supposed to go like this every day, right? And all of a sudden, it's up here and it gets swallowed up. It disappears, right? It must have been terror. It must have been terror, because they don't know about science, right? So in the ancient world, darkness is associated with evil. Bad things are in the dark. Bad things are. So what did the world look like before God came along? It's a soup of chaos and darkness. Yeah. My favorite darkness story. Howe Caverns. You ever go up there?
Oh, I love
Never go
Hellcat.
there again.
They have the boat, and they in the boat, and they shut the lights out. It's the darkest dark you've ever seen. You can hold your hand like this, and you absolutely cannot. It's a total absence of light. Well, that's what the world would have been, or the creation, right? So the first thing that God makes is light. Now, in Jewish thinking and in Christian thinking, we say, read the prologue to the Gospel of John, right? The Logos is the light, the Logos is the life, light and life, it all goes together, okay? So God creates light. I don't know about you, But when I go visit my daughter Haley in Vancouver, Washington, yeah, it rains there like 310 days a year. It's always cloudy all the time, you know. You go crazy after a while, right? So sometimes you just have to look at the sun. Like, is today nice? Yeah, the sun's shining. I don't care how cold it is. If the sun is shining, all of a sudden it's like, I can deal with this, no problem at all. But when it's like gray and dark, you know. We went to Alaska and Linda's like, oh, it's so nice, we should move here. It's August. It's 22 and a half hours of sunlight, right? Yeah, let's go there in December. It's 23 and a half hours of pitch dark. Yeah, that would be a great thing, right? You know, so this idea of light, and in Greek it's phos, like photon, phos, right? And there was light, and God saw the light, and it was good, right? Now, I love this, right? God, Creator, created the heaven and the earth. Is the universe, is the creation a good or bad thing?
Works for us.
Well, we think it's a good thing. No, it's a good thing, right? In Hinduism, the world is a bad thing. It's a place you want to escape from because it's a place of suffering and torment and evil. But for us, yeah, the world is good. And God blessed the world, right? And we'll get down a little more of it. So God has a positive attitude about the creation, which is kind of neat, right? For God so loved the cosmos that he gave his only begotten son, right? And God separated the light from the darkness. Okay, see that word? It's God divided. He separated. What does that mean? One of the mega themes of the whole Bible is separating holy and profane. Separate holy. The profane things go over here. The holy things go over here. What's the temple? The temple in Jerusalem has the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant is. The next ring out is where the priests go. The next ring out. The next ring out. So it's concentric circles going to the holy place. And then you're in the profane world. Holy and profane are separated. Okay? So separating things is a godly activity. Okay? So the Pharisees, you've heard the Pharisees in the New Testament? The name means the separated ones. Right? Do you know any Hasidic Jewish people? I do. Right? Well, how come they don't talk to you? They're antisocial or something? No, because they practice separation. Right? So they think Gentiles are dangerous and we're corrupt and that sort of. So they separate. So they won't like talk to you. You know, and we take it as like they're hostile or something. No, they're trying to live out their faith. You know, so it means separated one. So God divides and separates things, and God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. Stop. What did God do? He named it, called it. Okay? I joke about this before. If you're walking through the desert and you stumble upon a lamp, what do? You pick the lamp up, right? And you rub it, and what comes out?
Sand.
What's the first thing you want to do? No.
Water.
Get the name. Because if you know the name of the genie, you have power over the genie. That's how they think in the Middle East.
What did you do with the dog?
So it's the naming.
I know dogs, you get the name.
Yeah, the name.
And that dog will all of a sudden look at you.
Yeah. And naming, and teenagers work the same way, especially if you invoke the middle name. The naming of things is a God activity. So God names things. So it means that if you name the genie, you have control over the genie. This is like Islamic, Arab myths or something. But the principle is good. If you name it, you have control over it. What? God created the heaven and the earth, and He named it day and night. So who has control over day and night? Oh no, we do, don't we? No, God does. Isn't that odd? So God is the creator, and He separates and He names it. So He said it, He saw it, He divided it, and He called it. That's pretty sweet if you ask me. And He called the day night, and the evening and the morning was the first day. Okay, so He creates light. And see that word, Yom, Y-O-M? You know what that word is. Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. Yom, Y-O-M. What does the word Yom mean in the Bible?
I think it's day.
It's a 24-hour day. It doesn't mean like in my day we had Model T Fords. No, it means a 24-hour day. And you basically you can't get out of that. Like it means a 24-hour day. So again, when I told you, wait, we'll get to that in a second, that's like you're stuck.
Yeah.
What do you do about that? I'm going to become an atheist now. No, here's what you do about it. It's an upstairs story. So it's okay. It's like, yeah, okay, it's a young, yeah, that's fine. You know, right? Because remember, it's who made the creation, why was the creation made? Right? You want to know how, you have to go downstairs for that. So the mythos, the prevailing mythos is the 7 24 hours a day. Right? And it's not a downstairs story, it's an upstairs story. So, you know, your scientific friends, you know, they're atheists, they think they're really hot stuff or something, you know. Oh, you're superstitious, you think it's 24 hours. Well, it's what the Bible says. It's okay, because it's an upstairs story. You do your work, I'll do my work.
Yeah.
Right? So that works? It's okay. No, honestly, I sleep well at night. I have no problem at all. Right? Right? I'm not tormented by this stuff, because it's both and, not either or. You don't get caught up into the creation versus evolution argument. That's a false argument, right? It's okay. You go upstairs, right? I go upstairs, I come downstairs. So we're allowed to do that. So the word is yom, it means 24 hours, right? You can't get out of that. And God said, so that's day one. How many days are there? There are 7 days, okay? 6 days plus 1 day. So 6 plus 1, okay? The number 7 is a loaded number in the Bible, okay? Okay, so God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters, which were under the firmament from the waters, which above the firmament. Okay, so what is this? He creates land and heaven. Okay, so just like you have night and day separated, now you have the heavens and you have land below. Okay, earth and heaven and earth. Okay, okay, and all right. So if you read,
You don't call that the firmament.
huh?
You don't call it the firmament.
What?
You're talking about heaven.
Yes, the heavens.
I've always interpreted it as, why didn't people know from the beginning that the globe was round? Because it was separated with the ocean above and the ocean.
Yeah, well,
and the land was in the.
In the Bible, the Bible is a Mediterranean document, Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so the OT chart, you know what that is? It looks like an O with a T in the middle. So we think that there were 3 continents, right? Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Right.
So Shem is the father of Asians, Ham is the father of Africans, Japheth is the father of Europeans.
Yeah.
So until Columbus comes along, we think there's 3 continents. And they thought that the land was here and that around it was the ocean sea. So they didn't believe the world was.
Did they always think the sky was heaven? That was going.
Yes.
They did. All right.
Yeah. And the Bible knows of a 3-story heaven.
Okay.
And if you read Dante, you get to like 7 layers, like a 7-layer salad. You know, we had this from yesterday at the Super Bowl party. The 7-layered bean dip. You know?
That's so
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's it. All right, so, and then when we get to the Noah story, evidently there's some kind of a canopy above that holds the water, and that let loose, and that's what created the flood. Right? Okay. So anyway, so he separates the heaven and the earth. Okay. This might be a good point when people say, well, where do angels come from? Angels are created beings. They're spiritual beings without bodies, and they populate the heavens. Some people would say angels are created here on the 2nd day. The Bible doesn't say when angels are created. So that's kind of in the realm of interesting opinions. Okay, called the firmament heaven. At the evening and the morning of the 2nd day. Okay, so the water is in the firmament. All right, page 2. And God said, again, look at this, see? God said, God made, God called, God said. All right, I love that, how that rolls out. Oh yeah, God talks a lot here.
Who did he say him to? Is an army of angels?
Oh yeah, oh, okay, yeah. This is, excellent question.
I'm not quite.
Actually, the question is, Who is God saying this to?
That's not the hill.
Jesus of angels.
Jesus.
Yeah, one of the theories of the Holy Trinity is that the Holy Trinity like communes with itself and talks to like each other,
Oh.
you know. And the reason you have God said also is because the Bible can be seen as like a court case, right? And the history, the heavens or whatever, are the angels in heaven are like the witnesses that watch this unfolding. And the conclusion is God gets the glory, right? Holy, holy, holy. Okay, so it's said so that it's a witness, like testimony in this great court case, the great controversy. Okay, all right. God called the dry land earth, and He gathered together the waters, and He called it sea. Again, separating, and it was good. See that? That's good, right? Is that interesting? Okay. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed, and the fruit yielded fruit after its kind." Again, this is laws of cause and effect. Okay. Whose seed in itself upon the earth. Again, it's part of order out of chaos. Okay, so you have to have all the species and all in order. Okay, and the earth brought forth grass and the herb yielding its kind. Or I guess I was in there twice. And God saw that it was good, and again it's good. And the evening and the morning of the third day, dry land and vegetation. God said, "Let the lights and the firmament of the heavens be divided, the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons of days and years." Okay, let me stop there for a minute. I've talked about this before. What's one of the most religious books in my library? The Farmer's Almanac, right? Why is that? It tells when the moon's going to rise and the sun's going to set, when the tides are going to come and go. It's all documented, right? Well, writing was invented in the Mesopotamia and in Egypt so that priests could keep track of the records of when the Nile River is flooded, when the seasons change. Illiterate farm people want to know when it's going to rain and when the crops are going to come. So the keeping calendars and almanacs, time in the seasons, this is powerful information. Okay? And who's in charge of that? God is the one that gave us the change of the seasons. Right? Now, notice, if you're a Canaanite and you want it to rain, what do? Huh? Yeah, well, that's true. Probably a good idea, right? No, Baal, you've heard of Baal, B-A-apostrophe-A-L, Baal or Baal, is the storm god, the Canaanite storm god. So if you want it to rain, you sacrifice to the storm god to make it rain. Or it's called sympathetic magic. What does that mean? You pour water on the ground, because as it is below, so it is above. So if the gods see the ground wet, then they'll wet the ground. It's called sympathetic magic, right? So who's in charge of the change of the seasons and the rain, the latter and former rains? The Creator. This is an insult to the pantheistic worldview that you have to appease the gods, right? That's why they have human sacrifice in pagan religions. You have to appease the gods because the gods, like in the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? They like barbecues. They like the smell of fresh sacrifices. The smell that comes up to their nose. If you're going to go on a ship, you sacrifice at the temple of Poseidon or Neptune, and then while the lamb is roasting on the altar, Neptune's like sniffing it, and then you can get away and have a safe voyage. Like they can only focus on one thing at a time. So instead of looking at you violating the sea, they're enjoying the barbecue, right? Yeah, go ahead.
There's something bothering me.
Okay. What about the predestination thing?
No, we totally did that. But you said that the first day and night were 24 hours. That's how God made it.
Yes.
So that He's doing all these things in a 24-hour span.
Mm-hmm.
So evolution has no place there.
Well, no. No, you're getting sucked into you're getting sucked into the dichotomy between evolution and creation. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, but
It's both and.
it's
It's how we see a day, right?
Yeah.
A day is 20, we
But
see
he
it as
said
24
he
hours.
said-
Yeah, the word yom, it means 24 hours. I mean, you can't,
yeah, so
Yeah.
it was 24 hours, couldn't have taken millions, billions of years
I-
for things to evolve.
well, no.
He did it right away.
The evolutionist says, millions of years. Okay, well, that's a downstairs scientific theory.
Right.
So we're
Right,
upstairs.
It's a theory. You're
So
right.
so the story is that God created it 7 24-hour days. I mean, it's not a downstairs, it's an upstairs story.
It helps to remember who you're writing to.
Yeah.
If you think about who it's being written for,
Right.
here we are, 5,000 years later, 4,000
Yeah.
later. And if it were being written, the Bible were written today, I think it would be different.
I don't know.
Well, we
But
don't
then-
know, but
then
I
you
think
can't say that the Bible was God-breathed if you think that it could be written differently.
Yes, but,
yeah, but he's inspired with the authors.
right, he's inspired, but you already made the case that is somewhat constricted by, at the time, thinking, when you said that, they thought that there were only 3 continents
Yeah.
in Columbus.
Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Right, and so that constrains what the Bible defines there, so there's.
Well, I don't know if it constrains it, that's just what they thought at the time.
Right, but what they thought, but if God is omniscient
Mhm.
and everywhere, then he could have inspired them to write that there were 7 continents.
Well, that's one of the things that torments people. They say things like, why didn't God talk about Antarctica and North and South America and Australia in the Bible? Well, because the Bible tells you everything you need to know for salvation, not everything you'd like to know or want to know. So if you want to know about the 7 continents, read the National Geographic. Right? Because that's it, and I'm glad we know about 7 continents. I mean, I think my life is probably the same. The world of my travels I go to Walmart and back in Kingston. That's my journey. So it doesn't help me to know there's Antarctica,
You mentioned that it was, I think the Bible, it's Adam who names all the animals.
Yeah, isn't it interesting?
And yeah, well, if you read, I love it, I should bring it, if I can still find it. Samuel Clemens wrote.
Oh, he's great. He's great. He's not a nice man, is he?
He has naming the animals, and it really upsets Adam. How does she know all these names? And she comes up with, it's a wonderful little planet that he has, and it just flies in the face of what you're reading.
No, Mark Twain,
He just had a great time.
he hated Christian Science. He hated Mary Baker, hated her. So he wrote a whole book.
Mary Baker.
And it's not Christian and it's not science. Ooh. Yeah, Mark, he wrote Christian Science. He wrote it.
Mark Twain.
Yeah.
So basically,
His name was Samuel.
as we read the Bible, you go for the main idea of how it affects you and your salvation and your spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And then the things like how many days, how many hours, that's a downstairs thing that you don't worry too much about.
The story says it's a 24-hour day. That's a metaphysical thing.
And if we say that the Bible is the inspired word of God,
Yes.
why would he mislead us?
He's not misleading you.
I mean, that's exactly, he's not. What he says is the truth, so how
Well,
does evolution?
do you need to know that God created the heaven and the earth?
Period.
Right,
Yes.
Okay.
but then it tells you how he did it in the Bible,
Yeah.
day by day.
Mm-hmm.
He's just spoken it.
But it's not a science. It's not a science
The ones
book.
who were reading it.
So if you want to.
The ones who were reading it were the Jews who were really wanted to understand this, and if you would try to explain it in evolutionary terms or not, it was beyond it. There wasn't any of that science available then. I think.
Well, don't forget who do they live near? Egyptians who are polytheistic who think that the Nile River is a
Well,
god.
I always thought the angels came from the Egyptian side, but
Yeah, the Persians, that's one of the theories. Yeah,
But
Zoroastrianism.
because I don't take it literally, and I never have been able to, the Bible. I think it's inspired.
This is you saying it is what it
For me
is.
to read the Bible literally, it would make no sense.
Well, there's times when you don't read it literally, if it's like you said, the different genres.
Yeah, hermeneutic, you have to say, what is
But
it? This is a
obviously
creation
is-
mythos. Yeah.
It looks like it's a narrative, and
Yeah.
it's telling you what
Yeah.
is going on. And if it is, then it should be the inspired word of God, which this is the correct one, and not somebody.
Okay,
saying
go.
that
I talked about this
things
briefly
evolve
last
over
week.
years.
Okay. When we say inspired word of God, it does not mean that an angel sat on the shoulder and whispered to Paul what to write down. Okay? This is called the sacramental view of the inspiration of Holy Scripture. So when you go out and take communion, this is my body, this is my blood. That's it. Do we explain what happens? No. It's you take it. So we don't talk about the quality of the communion wafer. There might be a fly wing or something in there. The wine might not be. No, it's this is my body, this is my blood. That's it, right? So same thing with the Bible. So the Bible is it's called a sacramental view. So you don't argue about the quality of the paper that it's printed on.
Right.
You know, it's the Word of God. You just leave it at that. You don't have to get obsessed about which word is inspired and which word isn't inspired.
But I think you can't throw away your brain either.
No.
I mean, we know
No.
that like a day, to my thinking, could have been 1,000,000 years because we know that there are fossils of human remains that.
Well, how can you say that though? What does the word in Hebrew say?
24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
what's the problem?
Okay.
But the
Because remember, upstairs, it's a metaphysical book.
right.
So it's a religious book, right? So the evolution is a downstairs thing, and it's a theory.
It's just a theory.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, it's good, you know. And until something better comes along, that's what we have to work with. But you don't have to lose any sleep over it. It's like, you know, again, science gives us the atomic bomb, right? Upstairs, Harry Truman had to go upstairs and rely on his, religion and his understanding of law and so on in order to decide whether to use it or not. So that's what this is for, right? It's to help you, to give you wisdom to understand who made the heaven and the earth. God. Science will just say there is no God and it just sort of happened somehow. Well, that's a problem too, right? Like, okay, the Big Bang Theory, right? Well, who lit the fuse?
Right, exactly.
You have to have a primary cause. It doesn't just, well, there's like all the stuff in the universe was like the size of your thumb, and it was existing, and then it just blew up one day.
Right.
Well, that's the Big Bang Theory.
So that goes more for the creation theory, that there was
I-
an intelligent being that made it.
It's an interesting theory, But I mean, I look at the Bible story. So God created the heaven and the earth,
Right.
right?
Amen.
Like it's an upstairs thing.
I think of it as a story.
Well, yeah. Well, that's
There's a
it.
story.
I sleep well at night. It doesn't bother me at all.
So that's where the rub it comes in.
That's right.
Because to me, like an hour might not be our hour, and a week might not be our week.
I thought that too until he defined that yom is 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get out of that.
Yeah, but what is an hour? What was an hour then?
Well, according to this story, it says here that let me see, God, He created the seasons and the days and the years. Okay, so time then was created. God created time, space, continuum stuff, right? All right, well, let's keep going here now that I ruined your day. All right, so chapter 16.
I don't want to get a walk, but.
God made the two great lights, the sun and the moon, right? Two great lights. The greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. He also made the stars. Okay, stop. Why is that an interesting thing? Well, how could there be light without the sun being created, right? Ready? This is an insult to astrology, okay? Who believes in astrology? No, don't put your hand up. I'm talking about historical. In the ancient world, everyone believes in it, especially Babylonians. That's where it comes from, Babylon, right? So what is this? This story is a poke in the finger of the Babylonians who are polytheistic. They think, and Martin Luther, Philip Melanchthon is his right-hand man. Fantastic guy. Right? Genius. He's like 21 years old. He speaks like 9 languages, and he's a genius kid, right? But he also believed in astrology. So he was always working on the star charts. So Luther, of course.
They didn't have astronomy yet.
Well, so Luther, of course.
Yeah, he would have believed in astronomy if had it
Well,
born 1,000 years later.
well, Luther, of course, he tortures Melanchthon. He
Yeah.
says things like, okay, Jacob and Esau are twins. They're born under the same star sign. Why is it that God loved Jacob and hated Esau? You know? And Carl Sagan talked about this one time on the Cosmo Show. He says that, the thought that your moment of birth is somehow dictated by the position of the gravitational pull of the stars or something. He said, no, the gravitational pull of the doctor that delivered you is greater than the stars. So astrology is what people believed at the time. And Mary's right. Until the scientific revolution, we separate astrology from astronomy. We separate alchemy from chemistry. You see? So this is a poke in the eye of an astrology that somehow the planets have control over you. No, the Creator created the stars and the sun and the moon. So how could the stars have any control over you? They don't. They don't have any control over you. God does, but they don't. See that? So when you claim the stars control me, angels control me, whatever, you're doing nature worship, right?
That's right.
And what's the first commandment? This way only. No this. Mr. Thumb Man does not worship the pointer man. See that works? So this way only. So this is like an attack on astrology.
Which verse?
That's verse 16.
Oh, 16.
And then 17. God sent them the firmament of the heaven to give light to the earth, to rule over the day and the night. Again, God is the divider of light and dark. And God saw that it was good. Okay? The next day, in the evening and morning of the 4th day, God said, let the waters bring forth abundant moving creatures and the fowl of the air. Okay, so again, think of the mystery. I love to watch birds. How's that possible? They like fly and they migrate, they have little snowbirds are out there right now, I love to watch them. And it must have been a fabulous thing. So God made the birds of the air and he made the creatures of the sea. Again, he made the great whales, Moby Dick, right? So the great whales. And again, for the Jews, the sea is the ultimate terror, right? It's like sea and octopuses and sharks.
The whales are behemoths.
Yeah, the whales with gigantic beings.
They got the name behemoth, which is
Well,
not right.
guess what? God created the whales, right? And in the book of Jonah, a great fish, God orders the great fish to swallow up the prophet Jonah. So in other words, the great fish works for God. That's pretty neat, right? So the Creator, in other words. And it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful. All right, ready? There are 613 commandments in the Torah. Right? Torah, Genesis, Luke, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, right? 613. What's the first commandment?
Go forth and multiply.
Yeah, right here. This is the first commandment. Okay? That's why Hasidic Jews have like 14 children. Okay? Because they're literally fulfilling the first commandment of God. Okay? And God blessed them and said, what? Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the fowl multiply the earth. In the evening and the morning of the 5th day. So they interpret this as you as a creature have an obligation to propagate, right? So God created the heaven and the earth, right? But you have a duty to do your part here. So when you have a child, it's in the ancient world, I joked about this all the time. Having a child is a liability in our world, but in the ancient world, they're an asset. Because the more children you have, the bigger your family, clan, and tribe, the more workers on the farm, the more power you have, right? In our society, children are liabilities. You have to send them to college, and We spend like, what is it, $200,000 to get a kid from the time they're born to get them out of the house, you know? So, a family, clan, tribe, basic source logic unit, right? All right, and God said, let the earth bring, we'll go down the home stretch here. Bring forth the creature of every kind, cattle, creeping, again, the idea of good order, okay, good order, right? God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, cattle after their kind, every creeper thing. The word capitalism, kappa means head. So Abraham is rich because he has many kappas, many head of cattle and sheep and goats. So the bigger your herd, the more money, the more power and money you have in the ancient world. All right, and he saw that it was good. 26. All right, this is a key verse here. God said, "Let us make man in our image." Okay, stop. In Latin, it's called imago Dei, the image of God. Okay, so human beings are different than all other creatures on earth. Okay, so why? Because we're created in the image and likeness of God. Okay, what does that mean? That God looks like Robert? Yes, that's the right answer. No. We're created in the image and likeness of God in that we know right from wrong. Okay? Do dogs know right from wrong? Not really, they just like food. Right? But you know right from wrong.
Yes.
Right? So God has given us a conscience. We also are aware that we're born, we live, and we're going to die someday. Right? Animals don't know that. They don't have that awareness. Right? So that's what it means. It doesn't mean we look like God, but we have the ability to self-awareness or something, to reflection. Okay? And we're supposed to have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, every creeping thing. Stop. This is very important. This is a 3-hour lecture on environmentalism. Okay? So we have a duty to care for the environment. You're doing God's work when you take care of the land and the forests and the oceans and so on. Okay? Yeah, we're not supposed to like rape and plunder the earth and just scorch the whole thing or something, right? We're supposed to be caretakers of the creation. That's a 3-hour thing. It takes too long to do that. So God created man in his own image. God created him male and female, and God created them, and God blessed them. Look at that. Said, created, and blessed. Right? Okay? And God said, be fruitful and multiply. Okay, that's the first commandment right there. Right? I jumped it a little bit. Fruitful and multiply, that's the first commandment. All right? And then God said, behold, I have given every herb and bearing seed a yield, So this is that all things are good to eat. Right? We'll see that later on in the book of Acts.
Except for the creatures, the cattle and things like that. He's talking about fruits and seeds.
Yeah, it takes a long time to. My Seventh-day Adventist friends think that in the Garden of Eden that we were vegetarian and that meat eating started with Noah. Anyway, it's all right. But the idea is that God gave us. The earth is productive, and the food that the earth produces, we're allowed to eat. Okay, so it comes from God. And so when you say, why do you pray and say thank you before you eat? Because the food that you're eating comes from the earth, and God provided that. And that's a good way of explaining that. 31. God saw everything that He made, and behold, that's the 6th day, the 7th day. Okay, ready? This is the end here finally. Thus the heavens and the earth are finished. That's the creation here. Creation, okay? And that's the 7th day, the 7th Yom, okay? And God ended His work. And He rested on the 7th day. Right? This is the only time in the Bible where God rested. Isn't that interesting? Right? And He blessed, and God created, so it's God ended, God rested, and God blessed. And the summation of this whole thing, God created and made. Right? And it was good. He blessed His creation. So creation is a good thing, not a bad thing. Again, I moved really fast here. I want to try to. I didn't want to leave you in suspense. How did it end? And remember, how do you read the Bible? Ready? You have to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Creation, fall, redemption. That's the outline of the Bible. So the creation story is here, and the fall begins in Genesis chapter 3. Why is the world screwed up? Sin and death entered the world. Okay? And then the rest of the Bible from Genesis 3:15 on is about how God redeemed or saved the world. So most of the Bible is about how God is trying to restore the creation the way it's supposed to be.
So creation, fall.
Yeah, it's creation, fall, redemption. So it's three points. Well, anyway, over to Gloria.
No, it was very interesting. Pastor Mark, it was very interesting, very informative. But I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Not to criticize.
No, that's right.
And you mentioned earlier when you gave us the handout, it's from the King James Version, or the King James Bible.
Yes.
Why didn't you use the Lutheran Bible?
All right, through our lecture. There are different Bible translations, and which one do you read? The one that you read. Which one do you use? The one that you'll read. Okay? And so they're all the Bible translations are taken from the Hebrew and the Aramaic and the Greek.
Right.
Sometimes the words are translated slightly differently, and that's okay. And here we can argue about, well, why did they pick that word?
Yeah.
I just picked the King James because I thought that would be the one that people would probably have sort of memorized. Yeah.
Because it's.
You can't help it. I mean, you've been going to church your whole life, and it's like embedded in your
It's in
brain.
their ear.
Well, yeah, no, I understand. No, I know what you just said.
Yeah.
But since this is not to offend you, but since it's a Lutheran church, I thought his copies would be from the Lutheran Bible. And I agree. We all may use different editions. There's so many of them.
All right, let me answer this. Is there a Lutheran Bible? No.
No.
This Bible here, this is the New Revised Standard Version, right? And it's done by an ecumenical committee, including rabbis, right?
Right.
So this is like what it says. I mean, it's literal.
What do you then use up there in the church?
A New Revised Standard, this one.
So you say then I should get myself a New Revised Standard, large print for the blind.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well,
Yes, you can see it.
yeah. At this point, you want to get a large print, and they probably have a new RSV in large print, and you want to get as big as you can. Like this is a King James, and it has large print. And I do this because I don't like to wear my glasses when I read.
Do you have red letters in it?
Yeah, this is a red letter Bible.
That might be the one that I have.
Yeah, this is a Broadman Holman one, so it says red letter. And I just
But this has maps in the back, correct?
yeah, there's maps in the back. No footnotes though. It's not a study Bible.
Oh.
It's just like a plain, straight King James Bible.
I was very entertained at Barnes and Noble yesterday because Steve and I went to buy a new one.
Yes.
He had one that was falling apart,
Yeah.
the print was small. I had one given to me right before our wedding, the print is even
I know,
smaller
I
than
know.
that. So we went over and there was another couple in the same aisle choosing, trying to select a Bible. And I said to Steve, there were so many,
I know.
as you mentioned,
Yeah.
but what got me was you could find any cover
Yeah.
you wanted.
Yeah.
Paisley,
Yep.
flower
I
cover.
know. It's amazing.
The woman, I always thought it should be either brown leather or black leather.
Yeah. The minister said it has to be black leather.
I have never said hot pink,
Uh-huh.
purple,
Oh yeah.
yellow.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't believe it.
Makes you want to read.
But,
But I guess that appeals and makes it
No,
readable for some, I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, people have different kind of purses, and it's like.
ancient,
Yeah.
study edition.
Yeah.
And it goes back to,
But it's hardcover.
it's a hardcover.
It's not flowered, and it's not yellow or pink.
And one other quick thing, I gave you this handout here, and fold this in half and stick it in your Bible. This is the 12 stages of the Book of Ages. This is like an old Bible school thing, but this is like an outline of the whole Bible. So if you sort of learn the 12 stages of the Book of Ages, like today we're working in the creation stage. It's very useful. I really like this. Just a nice, like, tuck in your Bible and, you know, it's kind of good to know where you are in the program.
I have a question for you. You know, there's one part in the Bible where Jesus says, I have sheep in other pastures.
Yes,
I don't know what that's for.
that's a clear reference to the Mormons. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that your right?
I don't know who's, but I've read that and asked myself, you know, and I think other people have put forth the idea that there may be other earths, other creations.
No, that's pushing it a little far. Now, I would say that when John wrote that, he's talking about the Gentiles, non-Jews, Jewish tribe of Judah. So Jesus came to save not just members of the tribe of Judah, but all other people, other sheep.
I get that.
That's us.
But given the entire
It's always with the
universe-
sheep and not the goats. I've always felt sorry for the goats.
Yeah, that's true. Poor goats, what do they ever
What
do?
did they do?
But given the,
Yes, it didn't taste as good.
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, it seems very.
Some people have sort of pushed that. Like Emmanuel Swedenborg claims there's other universes out there, you
But
know.
I mean, it's very possible.
Well,
isn't it,
if we
that
find
God
another
could
universe,
create
I'll certainly be open to it.
It's fun to think,
A multiverse.
it's fun to think about, that
Oh, yeah.
you might find people.
But, you know, from the Bible point of view, that St. Augustine thing with the God stands outside of the time and space continuum, it's very helpful.
Now, is that a book?
It just
Is that a book about
St. Augustine,
Augustine?
he wrote The City of God, which is a book that if you have unlimited time, you should read that
The City
someday.
of God.
Yeah.
Does that deal with the time and
It has
space?
22 books in it. It's a big, thick book, and it's about the
The City
It's a
of
Alaric.
confessional.
No. The Confession is a different book. That's easy to read.
Yeah, that's the one that was.
That's introspective and so on.
Sample.
Yeah, but the City of God is Alaric and the Visigoths sacked Rome, so the first time in 800 years, so it's 410 AD. Then pagans said the reason that Rome got sacked is because we lost our faith in the old-time gods, that we became Christian and became weak. So St. Augustine says, no, God permitted this to happen because you reap what you sow. That paganism, you can't build a just society on polytheism, gladiator games, and that kind of thing. So it's like a history book about the Roman Empire.
Okay, I'm thinking of his.
The Confessions is him introspective.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's a great book of the Western world.
Yeah.
It's an introspective book.
Pastor,
Yes,
next week we
Pete has.
continue with Genesis? Pick up where we left off?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, why not?
Okay.
We're sort of on a roll here.
Let me ask you another question.
Want to get to some good stuff eventually?
Answer next week, but who wrote Genesis?
If you say to a rabbi who wrote it, Moses gets it.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you say to someone like Mary, it's a committee that wrote it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, and, you know, I can still remember we had a retreat, and I was asked to speak, and I took the book of Job.
Yeah. Outstanding.
Well, I don't think Charlotte has ever gotten over what I said about it, because it had a new ending attached to it.
Yes.
You know, and
The happy ending.
And it's probably the oldest book. In the
Yeah.
and it's the most, to me, it's fascinating.
Oh, Job is an amazing book.
And, but I didn't present it as the direct word of God. And that's how she wanted it
Yeah.
given to her. And I remember trying to apologize afterwards because I didn't mean to upset her. But as you said, Mary would say it was a committee that wrote Genesis. Not quite, but almost.
There's a book called There Is a Voice in the Whirlwind.